Good afternoon, Blair Underwood. Good afternoon, David White. You know, it is, and I love that you mess with me. That makes this a lot of fun, actually. Releases the pressure. Oh, my goodness. You know, this is a very interesting award season. Here we are in 2015. And I can honestly say, never before has the conversation been so centered around black men in the industry. And so that makes our session today, the ICON SAG-AFTRA sessions, ever more important. And so here we are, leading the charge on these discussions, along with the Blacklist. Why is that? Why is, and why must we lead the charge?
Well, for me, in a word, empowerment. How we see ourselves makes a difference in how, if we feel empowered, if we feel like we can move forward, if we feel like we can progress. So if we can project ourselves in certain ways, whether it's producing product or creating product and projects that go into the marketplace, it makes a big difference. So for ICON Man to step up and see the significance and the importance of how we speak to and about African American men, and the importance and the values of making sure those representations are rewarded and awarded, or at least acknowledged, makes all the difference in the world. So that's why we're here, it's why I'm here, and I think it's critical that we can, in a way we support this effort, we do so.
Agreed. David?
Yes, and the title of our panel was The Evolution of Character, and we are right now in a moment of evolution and transition. So we had David Oyelowo with us, and his performance of Martin Luther King was so unbelievably nuanced and complex, and we're at this point in our history where we are able to portray even historical iconic figures with the complexity and the fullness of their humanity. And that's something that we wanted to emphasize, that ICON Man attempts to emphasize through its very being, and that's very important to SAG-AFTRA. And frankly, I work at a place that deals a lot with actors. We have other members as well, but when you think about actors and the process of interpreting a story and a character and bringing that to life, this is an area, black characters, black actors, black male imagery, that we wanted to focus on. And so it's been a very exciting day to date, and we're only halfway through.
Certainly has, and some very profound information was put on the floor today. Blair, I want to ask you, there's certainly a great amount of responsibility in the roles that you choose, but is there ever a weight when you're called upon to do a biopic, and what does it say to you?
Yes, I would think the weight depends on that individual character. I had the great fortune of playing Jackie Robinson in an HBO film years ago, and part of the weight is, what do people remember? What do they remember from that particular person? The way he walked, the way he talked, the way he acted. There's that public representation, and there's also the personal representation. You know, the different projects I've done in the theater that your audience may not know, but even still, you work just as hard, and it's just as important. King being one in a stage production I did. So I was concerned about how would the family respond to this representation. You know, you want to make them proud. You don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to hurt the image if it's someone actually you admire and respect, as I did and do. So there's usually that gravity and weight of just trying to make sure you're doing justice to that individual.
You know, speaking along those lines, I really want to ask you, because you have embodied so many real-life, beloved characters. What has been your most challenging role throughout all of them? Which one made you say, oh, I've got to sharpen my pencil on this?
Well, there's Othello on the stage because it's Othello and it's Shakespeare, which I love doing. But more than that, I think, and I did a short film where I played Jesus, actually, and did an audio recording that Robbie Reed actually produced, called The Bible Experience. So to do the voice of Jesus was, as you can imagine, the most daunting of all, because of what that name, above and beyond the historical figure, but what he means if you see him as the Messiah, as the Savior, as a rabbi, as a teacher, as just another man. However you see him, he means something. It's a very powerful name and impact to everyone. You know, whether you dismiss it and you're agnostic or atheist, it doesn't matter, but it evokes an emotion. So to play that particular person. The only way I could access that was through, again, I keep using the word humanity because it is that, from a human perspective. And then go from there, but by far that was the most challenging.
And I can certainly see that. Yes, of course.
It's interesting because we touched upon this theme at some length during our panel, and very interesting to me and to members of the audience how quickly each of the actors went to an agreement about their ability as actors, as professionals, and as black men to take a character and interpret him as a full human being. And I think when I first started putting the questions down, I thought I was going to get a different response, that there are restrictions placed based on the very concerns that he just brought up. And in fact, these guys are making it happen, and they are finding ways to actually build full narratives out of these characters, and in ways that sometimes the audience may not even perceive, but the subconscious gets it. And that's what actually makes the great performance. And so it's just so wonderful that they take these risks, because they are risks. It's particularly when you're playing an iconic figure within the history of the black community, and they do it so well. It's wonderful to see, and it was really great to hear them touch upon how they go through that interpretive process.
It certainly was, and should be, in fact, an ongoing discussion. I have two final questions, and one I certainly want to ask: who do you think we would be, and where would we be in the industry if we weren't hindered? Blair?
That's such a great question, and I don't know where, but I know we'd be further along. One of the things we talked about, David, after this panel discussion was what I appreciated about it was we did not just harp on the problems and issues, but we kind of tried to speak to the solutions. So I don't know where we would be, but I know part of it lies in continuing to talk about the solutions and not allowing whatever obstacles there are to hinder us.
One place where I think we have the chance to go, and where I would like to see us go, is in both television and in theatrical film, for the storylines that come from the black community to be the primary storyline of a production, with the belief and the understanding that people are interested in tales of humanity, and they sell when they're done correctly, rather than fitting a particular stereotype. Instead, when the full complexity of a family dynamic or an individual going through a moment of crisis or aspiration or whatever, if you can bring that to screen, you can bring that to screen for stories that depict black American life, black international life, and that's where I hope we are going. And in fact, I see slivers of us being able to get there.
Well said, and I'm encouraged by that. My final question is, what is your vision or goal for how this ICON MANN community will enrich the black male community and inspire us to not only dream, but to dream big?
I think that would be it. That we can build this network much broader and not be afraid to share ideas, to share visions, and to invest in each other with hard dollars sometimes, or sometimes, it may just be support, but hard dollars come into play. And there are enough of us in this community, in the country, but also in this community to do that. So I would like to see more of that come to play, so we can actually see these visions come to fruition.
I'd like to see more of that too. Thank you, Blair.
Yes, ICON MANN is really quite an important institution that we're building. David Oyelowo, in fact, I think Blair touched on this as well during the panel, talked about a moment where his advice and his input helped to determine who else was going to get a job as a director, as a casting director, as a part of the production. And what ICON MANN does is provide a forum in which we can build relationships so that in the small moments when decisions get made, we actually know each other, know each other's work, know capabilities, and can make sure that black men are a part of the conversation as frequently as possible. That then spreads to more yeses and that then spreads to more imagery. And when you think about some of the imagery that just this young man right here has put on the screen, and the incredible change and mind shift that can give for audiences around the country, particularly people who look like him and who fit his profile and say, if he can do that, maybe I can do that. That's quite powerful. All of that starts in a forum where people are talking with one another and building relationships and sharing bonds, and that's what ICON MANN does.
Absolutely. Well said. And I'm so encouraged by that. I think it really falls upon us to really link arms and aims together and make sure that we're in the room where these discussions are taking place, and that there are more yeses for us, and that the stories that we bring to life are more inclusive of the truth of who we are. I want to thank you both for joining us today. Blair Underwood, such a joy to see you. David White, what an honor and a pleasure. I'm Mikki Taylor, and you're watching the ICON MANN sessions. Thank you.